Sex, guns, and lies. That's how prosecutors say an alleged Kremlin secret agent infiltrated American politics, getting close to Trump allies and other Republicans. Russia's ambassador to the U.S., on the other hand, says the Department of Justice's case against Maria Butina is a farce. Butina has pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiracy and acting as a covert Russian agent. The Russians have set up a hashtag in her defense. Her one-time boyfriend, Paul Erickson, only adds to the intrigue. He's an American, conservative political operative. It's not clear where he falls into this alleged scheme. Prosecutors suggest he may have been manipulated by Butina, who's half his age. Joining me exclusively tonight, Maria Butina's attorney, Robert Driscoll. Robert, the government laid out a long list of communications that they say prove your client, Maria Butina, was a spy. And I want to read one between her and the Russian official she was communicating with immediately after Donald Trump won the election. She writes, quote, "I'm going to sleep. It's 3 a.m. here. I'm ready for further orders." The Russian official says, think about it, in which areas of life we could go towards bringing us closer. ISIS, understandably, what else we need to look at the American agenda. So you say your client is a Russian spy. How do you, why is she asking for further orders?
I think that, like most of the government's case, is taken completely out of context. Those Twitter direct messages, which, by the way, most Russian spies don't communicate by Twitter direct messages, which are unencrypted. There's thousands of them between Alexander Torshin and Maria over years period, and they were gun rights advocates together and were friends. There's Twitter direct messages about picking up toothpaste in America. There's direct messages with pictures of kids and dogs and everything else. And they both had an affinity for better American-Russian relations, but that certainly wasn't the purpose of her trip to the U.S. It was something they discussed once in a while.
Here's another thing that the government says that they had. They flagged several direct messages between her and the Russian official where your client talks about going, quote, underground, going incognito, and having to be quiet and careful. The government alleges that the message show her acting in a covert manner. To that you say?
Again, is it? Maria never said she was anyone other than who she was. She always said she was a Russian. She said that she had worked with Alexander Torshin, or said that she was friends with him or assisting him in his endeavors. She never did anything covert at all. I think any discussion of them, of underground or covert versus public, is more to do with whether or not to have, for example, public conferences and invite Americans and Russians on the gun issue or on other issues, or have more private dinners, which is what they ended up having.
It is interesting for someone who's alleged to be a spy that apparently, from what I've read from accounts from people who were at the university with her, she had a picture of Vladimir Putin on her phone, and she often spoke in defense of Vladimir Putin in class, which if she was trying to be incognito and be here as a spy, I'm not sure that she, it seems odd that she would have a high profile in defense of Vladimir Putin. I would think if I was a spy for Vladimir Putin, I would actually go the opposite way and kind of downplay my like of Vladimir Putin.
I actually asked her about that today because I read about, I think on CNN, the story about the phone cover. It's a picture of Vladimir Putin shirtless on the horse. So you can imagine, which she had as a gag. She's the Russian student, and everyone knew she was a Russian student, so she had a...
No, I'm saying it actually argues in your favor in this case, which is like if she's trying to have a cover position, it seems odd that she would be publicly out there promoting Vladimir Putin positions in a classroom.
She was head she was well known in Russia before she even came here. She's been getting publicity since she's been in the U.S. for well over a year. If she were a spy, her relationship with Torshin was disclosed in articles online over a year ago. So, according to the government's theory, her cover was blown over a year ago and she didn't leave.
So let me ask you that Paul Erickson, the man that she had a relationship with, is he the U.S. person number one as named in the indictment? Because it seems like he is.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that here, but I think you're on the right track.
Can you say exactly what her relationship with Erickson was? Was she using him to gain access to the NRA, to Republican elite?
No, I think that they have a personal romantic relationship, and they have for about 5 years, and they attended lots of events together over time.
Was she using sex as a means to manipulate Erickson? Because there was some indication that she had, there was one report that she had complained about being.
No, I think it's very unfortunate. The government kind of dropped those allegations without any evidence at a hearing the other day in open court. I have vehemently asked the government for any support for those allegations about trading sex for things, because I frankly find it kind of offensive just because she's an attractive woman that that's the direction people go in. But I haven't seen any evidence of that. And, you know, I think she
Well, I think
takes a
someone from the
position view
school
denies
said that, you know, a lot of the men she hung out with seemed to be above 60, which just sort of struck them as odd. But there were handwritten notes found in her apartment. In particular, one said, how to respond to FSB offer to employment. Right. How do you explain that?
Those notes weren't, I believe those notes were found in another apartment of person one.
Right, in person one's handwriting.
In person one's handwriting. So I don't think it's up for her to explain that. But I will say this, that
if the FSB is offering full employment either to subject number one, who she's in a relationship with, or to her, that certainly, again, raises questions.
I think that anyone who is Russian has to meet with the FSB when they go back and forth, and frequently is asked at the airport what they're doing in America, if they had any information from the FSB, and you know what would happen if the FSB approached her gun rights group or another group. I think those kind of things were discussed
but I mean,
by her
talking about employment is, I mean, if the FSB is talking to you about full employment, that's of concern, no?
Again, and if there were any evidence that she was employed by the FSB, you know, but there's just none.
Have you ever represented Erickson?
No.
And so, bottom line, in terms of what your clients wants, is it a plea deal, a return to Russia, something else?
My client's innocent of the charges, and so what she wants to be is we're going to establish that the government cannot prove a case here. The government has brought a case under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, which, by the way, no one has ever prosecuted under. And so essentially it's a registration statute saying that if you're going to do certain activities in the country, you have to register with the Attorney General of the United States. So they're acknowledging that everything she did is legal under U.S. law.
Robert Dushko, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.